Alright, so as far as euthanasia goes, this guy here made a claim that it's basically legal and it wouldn't be reported, it wouldn't be sufficient, it wouldn't be guided, it wouldn't be even diagnosed correctly. The evidence, the opponents of euthanasia and assisted suicide who cite the dangers of abuse in support of their view also fail to notice that abuse is possible when euthanasia and assisted suicide is legally prohibited. It is naive to think that covert forms of euthanasia and assisted suicide are not occurring in places where those practices are illegal. At least some of those instances would constitute abuse if a legal right to die existed. It is hard to say how much abuse occurs in such jurisdictions, but this is partly because where euthanasia and assisted suicide are prohibited, doctors will be less likely to admit to participating in such practices. Also, a competent terminally ill patient has the right to die. The right of a competent terminally ill person to avoid excruciating pain and embrace a timely and dignified death bears a sanction of history and is implicit in the concept of ordered liberty. And the exercise of this right is essential in personal autonomy and bodily integrity as rights safeguarded with this court's decision relating to marriage, family relationships, procreation, contraception, child rearing, and the refusal termination of life-saving medical treatment, as I mentioned earlier. In particular, a court's recent decision concerning the right to refuse medical treatment is the right to abortion. A mentally competent, terminally ill person is protected the liberty and interest in choosing to end intolerable suffering by bringing about his or her death. This is the state's categorical ban on physician-assisted suicide as applied to competent, terminally ill patients who wish to avoid unendurable pain and hasten inevitable death substantially interferes with their protected liberty. Over the time, the Hippocratic Oath has been modified on a number of occasions as some of its tenets become less and less acceptable. Reference to women on studying medicine and doctors not breaking the skin have been deleted. The much quoted reference to do no harm is also in need of explanation. Does not doing harm mean that we should not prolong a life that the patient sees as a painful burden? Sure, the harm in innocence is that we prolong the life, and doing no harm means that we should kill the patient. Killing the patient, technically, yes. Is it a good thing? Sometimes, yes. And is it consistent with medical end of life? Absolutely, yes, says Philip Nisht, MD, in 2001. And also, just to tie up, regarding social groups are not at risk with legalized euthanasia. One concern that disadvantaged populations would be disproportionately represented among patients who chose assisted suicide. Experience in Oregon suggests that this has not been the case. In the United States, socially disadvantaged groups have variably included ethnic minorities, the poor, women, and the elderly. Compared to all Oregon residents who died between January 1998 and December 2002, those died by physician-assisted suicide were more likely to be college graduates, likely to be Asian, somewhat younger, more likely to be divorced, and more likely to have cancer or amyotrophic lateral psoriasis. Moreover, although 2.6% of Oregonians are African American, no African American patients have chosen assisted suicide. So again, this has no effect on minority groups. Thank you.
Did you sign this on? Up there. I put it on the desk. So it's